You may remember the Children of the 90s study, the most in-depth research into mothers and babies in the world. Researchers at the University of Bristol have been collecting health data from local families since the early 1990s.
Now they've published their 2000th paper on the study, focusing on the differences between the original women recruited during pregnancy and their children's generation. Rishi Davda explains.
Known as the COCOs, the children of the 90s, are helping to inform scientists right across the world. The original Children of the 90s project started collecting health data almost 30 years ago.
I've been involved with Children of the 90s study since before I was even born. My mother was recruited at a routine antenatal appointment when she was pregnant with me. She was followed throughout her pregnancy, and then I was part of the study as soon as I was born, and all my life until now I've been coming into focus visits and filling out questionnaires. It's just been a really normal part of my life.
The study has kept in-depth records on a number of subjects including health, education and social care. Laura's children, Evelyn and Alice, are now part of the next generation of the project.
I was followed with Evelyn since she was a baby, and then with Alice I came for visits during my pregnancy just like my mum would have done, and it's been very similar for them, their involvement, as my involvement was as a child.
A new Children of the 90s report has just been released, and it is a special one for a number of reasons.
This really is a landmark report, both because it's the 2000th publication from Children of the 90s and because it highlights this unique feature that we now have of 3 generations. What the report is doing is comparing some of the characteristics of the contemporary generation of young women when they were pregnant and their infants with that of their mother's generation. And what we see is that this contemporary population, on average, they're larger, so they have a higher body mass index. They report more symptoms of depression, in particular sort of trying to cope with everyday life and feeling anxious. They have babies who are larger. We've seen across the world what's called the obesity epidemic. So people are getting bigger, and that means that pregnant women will also be bigger, and that then influences the size of their babies.
The families involved believe they are helping to make a real difference.
I think it does make an awareness of the differences between the generations and the sort of different struggles that maybe my generation have now that are very different to when my mother would have had me.
I feel like it's probably going to have quite a lot of, it's going to do quite a lot of good in the future as well if it's carrying on the study and more kids get involved.
9-year-old Evelyn loves taking part and impressing her school friends.
They say that they would want to do it, but they also say that they're scared to do it, and they think that it's very interesting.
Well, Rishi's joined us in the studio. And Rishi, Evelyn there ending that report saying how interesting this report is. But it's been a big study, hasn't it, that's affected a lot of people?
Well, it's a very big study indeed, especially across the wider Bristol area. Around 14,000 mums and dads were signed up in the early 1990s. Now, Laura, the mother who we heard from in the report there, went to school in Kingswood, and she said that in her class, so many of the people were involved in the programme then. Well, some of the key work they've been looking at is things like the prevention of stillbirths, the reasoning behind food allergies, and also the development of serious conditions like diabetes and heart disease.
So clearly really important work, Rishi. Will it continue?
Well, that's the hope. The funding for the study actually comes from the government, the Wellness Trust and the University of Bristol. And the team behind the study have to reapply for funding every 5 years. And they'll be doing that in the next few months. So they can hope that they can continue this long research history. And they're actually still trying to recruit people for the next generation of the Children of the 90s.
All right, Rishi, thank you very much indeed.